Greetings, it's Deja Bliss. I have been asked to talk more on Kundalini. So, I'm going to address Kundalini in this way. First of all, I'm just going to talk about what it is. Kundalini is a term used in Sanskrit to refer to cosmic life force energy. Now, the earth has Kundalini. We each have Kundalini. Kundalini basically runs through all of life. It is the subtle energy, if you will, the consciousness energy that enlivens all things, makes them alive, makes them move. So even plants contain also this Kundalini. I had the opportunity to interface with the Kundalini life force in ayahuasca vine once, and it taught me much about this energy. And it really is this cosmic energy, and the only goal that it has is to rise, is to move, is to evolve wherever it is, to feel, to embody. Okay? So we, as humans, we're born with active Kundalini energy. And then as we move into puberty, that energy is kind of muddled or messed up by the pituitary gland releasing other hormones that help us with our physical maturation process. So our spiritual maturation process kind of slows down and stops, though it doesn't have to at that point. If we are trained in yoga and mantra and meditation, we can actually continue through puberty with the Kundalini active, and we don't have to go through their Kundalini active. But for us who have passed that, generally what happens is we have our Kundalini reawakened at some point in our life. Either you can read this online or in books, either by, like a sudden event, sex can trigger it, some kind of psychedelic journey or drug-induced happening. A guru could have initiated your Kundalini rising, or if none of those things happen, age 40 is a really common time for someone to have what they call a midlife crisis, which is also the reigniting of their Kundalini energy. So when Kundalini begins to move in the body, it does various things. Its first number one job is to clear out all the blocks that are keeping it from being able to move more fluidly in the body and allow the consciousness valves, which are your chakras, to open more so that you can function at a higher capacity or with more consciousness, with more Kundalini. So the Kundalini first goes and does a little house cleaning. It goes and washes through these areas, okay? Kundalini, when it's first starting, can feel like a tingling sensation. It can feel like a pressure in the pelvis, an aching in the pelvis. It can feel like hot and cold flashes, hot and cool energy. It can feel like the legs can feel like they're in pain or tingling because that energy can back up and push into the legs if it's being blocked in the pelvis. You can actually have, if you're a woman, reproductive issues if that Kundalini is not moving. If you're a man, you can also experience reproductive stuff. So then, even just becoming conscious of this, and even just beginning to bring awareness to your pelvis and agree that you would like to allow this Kundalini to move and allow the debris that's being kicked up to move, even that alone process of that stuff moving. So you can just sit with that, you can breathe through those areas, and you can just start to direct that energy so it goes straight up the spine. That is where it wants to go, straight up the spine. And if you find a block or a painful spot, like between your shoulder blades or low back, you can imagine that energy, which should now start to feel like a cool and a warm burst up your spine. That is correct. You can also visualize it blue and red. It is this magnetic electrical energy that's pulsing up your spine, and it should then feel to come out of the top of your head, much like a volcano or a fountain, and that is it making its full expression out of the body, and then it pools again at the base of the spine, and then it goes up again. So you're doing this tube torus shape with the energy. Every time it repasses the chakras, it might catch something old again. It might catch an old injury. It will catch old injuries, old beliefs, old stuck emotions, and it will attempt to push through those and move through them. So every time you feel one of those, if you get attached to it and you think, oh my gosh, this is happening in my life again, I can't believe I'm facing this again, then you'll keep that energy stuck right there, and you'll move through another pattern that replicates an old pattern, and until you realize that you want to continue to move that out of the body, and it's just like a debris thing moving out, because Kundalini is going to clear out all of the old patterns so that you can come into a next level you. That's why they call it an identity crisis, because like all this stuff I've been thinking and believing and feeling is just not working anymore. Like I gotta have a new way. So then life starts showing you all the ways that it hasn't been working by giving you little mini scenarios to which you can either respond in the old way or you can respond in a new way, in an awakened manner. And Kundalini doesn't care how long it takes you. You can cycle that stuff all your entire life if you want. This is why in yoga it's really important to cultivate third eye awareness. So we do the third eye opening exercises, we gaze to the forehead, we do Kachari Mudra with the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth and gaze at the forehead. We do candle gazing, Shratak, where we gaze at the candle until our eyes water and we close our eyes and see the after image. All of these things are opening the third eye. And the third eye is the observer faculty. It is the very most important thing that could be going on in your body when your Kundalini is awakened and pushing out debris. Because if you are able to maintain observer mind, I'm just going to slow down to say this, you do not get stuck in the drama. If you can stay in observer mind, which is what third eye awareness is all about, is to become the witness, then when the stuff is coming up and a scenario presents itself for you to transcend an old pattern and live it at a higher octave, which is what your Kundalini energy is asking you to do, is continue to live your life at the next higher octave of expression. It's like a Fibonacci sequence. It's like the golden triangle. It's unfolding for you. Your life is evolving for you at higher and higher octaves of expression. That's Kundalini is pushing us. That's what pushes a plant to grow in that way. The Kundalini, that same life force, is doing that. It also evolves cultures and peoples and families, and is the whole impetus for the rise and fall of civilizations, that we have this Kundalini moving through us, wishing to express through us at our next frequency. But if we do not get the cue and we feed into the old pattern and old drama, we do not evolve. We just keep cycling and making a very deep groove in our brain. The neural pathways repeat over and over, and the definition of doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, is insanity. It basically creates an insane condition. Which is why awakening your Kundalini can be maddening for some people, because they can't make the leaps, they can't detach enough from the story to see the story unfolding. So when we attach to the story and we don't see that it's trying to also process out layers so that we can evolve, then we got to play the drama. Then we're playing the drama out. It's not fun. Especially if you're not in the drama and someone around you is doing it. It's like, okay, that's where they're at in their process, in their cycle. And I think you're being mean if you're not like really placating their sorrow. Okay, and you know, a good amount of compassion is great, and also with some hard love sometimes when you know someone is going through a Kundalini awakening, and you can see it pushing up patterns. And this is a growth time. People do get pushed to their limit. Of course, every time we awaken to the next level, we are pushed as far as we can be pushed. And the more we do it, the more graceful we get at it, and the easier the lessons appear to be, even though that's just because we're better at navigating them. It's not because they necessarily are easier. It just gets simpler to deal with. Like, oh, here we go again. I just apply the same principles of awareness, of detachment, so we can breeze through this. Okay. So this is true of a people too. The earth is going through a Kundalini awakening. There is a mass awakening going on. So we can also see that as we blow through different layers of consciousness, they are akin to the chakra points opening. First chakra issues getting cleared out have to do with lack and poverty and home and safety and security and abundance and groundedness and all these things. So all of humanity is having to come to terms with or look at, how safe do I feel? Do I feel at home? Do I feel grounded? Do I feel secure in myself? Do I feel at home on the earth? Do I have a home? On the one hand, the lower octave is a fear, a primal fear for losing the home, thinking that you are responsible for that in yourself, and feeling inadequate in that. Okay? And then you have the evolved version, the more awakened version, when Kundalini moves through and adds more life force energy through that valve, so you actually have more access to consciousness itself, then reminds you that you're always home, you're always provided for, you're always taken care of, there's always a backup plan you don't know about, something's always working out for your next highest good. There's no such thing as lack or loss, that if one source is being taken away, it's being replaced somewhere else. That is always true, and that is the awakening of the first chakra. And as we awaken it more and more, we remove all the blocks, which in order to remove them, we also have to come up against them in some way to give us the opportunity to see that we've initiated through it, we've made it, we can release it, we don't need that block anymore because we no longer need to stay at that level of consciousness. But if we show we do need that lack to make us feel safe, we're not going to evolve past it. We're going to hold that debris tightly like a blanket. And we can see when our friends do that, if we've gone through that. We recognize it because we've all done it or are doing it. Second chakra stuff in the collective right now is also purging. So there is sexual stuff clearing to the unawakened side. So a lot of the sexual abuse stuff, the sexual manipulation stuff in churches and, with Hollywood managers and so forth, or in the government or wherever we are seeing it, that is a lower expression, a distorted, a closed second chakra in humanity that's being purified and brought it to the surface so that it can evolve to a healthy sexuality, satisfied sexuality, a responsibility around it, accountability. And also the second chakra is ancestral and karmic debris. It's probably the most challenging place for consciousness to move through. And I just say that because we all know what a bitch karma can be. So as we are going through a purification in the bigger cycle, we're having to purify out all of these old cycles, like what did humanity do in the past? What kind of wreck did we make? Like this stuff is surfacing. Like who stabbed who in the back, who was whose slave, who was whose racist, like who, what, like this group, that group, did what, did where, and we're having to look at it now, try not to get reattached to it as some of it surfaces, as we see like the Ku Klux Klan come out of nowhere again. You're like, oh, I didn't know that still existed, but it's that it was in the psyche still. It was still in the karmic debris of humanity. It hadn't yet made an evolutionary exit yet. First, we have to look at it and recognize that it's there. It's part of the shadow expression. So when we can do that, we can allow for a release or an evolution of that so that we can begin to experience the flip side of that, which is an opened second chakra in humanity, where we actually can embody the gifts of our ancestors. We can see the benefit of the past. We can see how we're building upon it, that we have evolved from certain areas of history. We can also draw from our cosmic history or her story or whatever you want to call it, the foundation and building blocks from all the traditions, and where do we want to draw from, and that can become a solid foundation of satisfactions, of satisfactory evolution, where we honor the men and the women that have come through, that have shared their gifts, that have been the rulers and the pioneers and the way showers, and we can take that into our vessel, and we can find deep satisfaction in our sensual self, in our sexual natures. Now, this is the one that I think is creating the hugest wave on the planet right now, especially as women reclaim the power of their womb space and the potency of the menstrual cycle, and the power that when we bleed, we are moving big medicine. We are creators. We can create with our word, with our energy. And men are learning to honor that space. But, women have to honor it first. We have to honor first in our body that we have a womb, that our bodies are a temple, that it's a sacred space. And when we invite in the masculine, they then feel the honor that we feel for ourselves. And it changes the dynamic on the planet to one of respect and honor, and it starts to move us away from the old paradigm of disrespect and dishonor, which we've played out very well. And we're moving with this rising energy toward the third chakra, which is, I believe, why we're feeling collectively this sensation of like a utopian or a Christ consciousness reality coming in. Some traditions call it the millennium. There's a new earth, a new age being birthed, and that is the awakening of the third and the fourth chakras of humanity to a next octave where empowerment, sovereignty, replaces the old fears and the old self-loathing and self-hatred and hatred between each other and the disempowerment that has been. But the only way we can truly access that is to pass through the gateways of the first and second chakra. The Kundalini has to pass through and make it out of those first two centers. In yoga, they say once you've cleared out first and second chakras with Kundalini, Kundalini will not drop back down again below third chakra. It will only go up from there. So at first we have this up and down in first and second chakra, like bringing up the stuff, bringing up the abuses, bringing up the disempowered places, the dissatisfied places, the karmic wounds, until we have sufficiently moved that and allowed consciousness to shift to a place of honor and respect around our ancestry and karma and all these things. It doesn't mean that we completely get rid of all of those things, but we integrate them. We learn the value of them. We honor them in the evolutionary spiral, and we continue forward. So as we're coming to the third and fourth chakra, expression and humanity, we see the desire to live from love, to invite love in, to find unconditional love. I'm looking for my garbage, for my matcha tea bag here. I'm just going to put it over here for a moment. My son uses garbage and recycles to make all his own little toys, so I've got this little creative guy here. But also third chakra denotes deeper levels of creativity and humanity, which I believe this is going to shift our experience with the earth, as the earth herself is going through her own awakening process, her own empowerment process on what is possible here, what can be created here, what new things can be born, how it can seem like such dissolution from one hand, and then on another hand that the earth is just right in alignment with her own cleansing, with her own purging, that it's not a devastation but a destruction of the old paradigm. Just as it looks sometimes when we are waking up, it looks like a destruction of our old life, and it is in many ways. We do go through death cycles, but that is on the way to a deeper level of consciousness and awareness. And that is what the earth is doing. That is what the collective is doing. That is what we are each individually doing. And of course, if you're familiar with the chakras, you know that we come into a place of healing in the fourth chakra, understanding that we are healers. The earth can heal, we can heal each other. Fifth chakra, we have been stifled, sometimes not able to speak our truth, not able to say what we feel or think, feeling like our words aren't valid. As that finally awakens, we begin to express the things that are deeply in our hearts. We speak our truth no matter what we think people will say, because we love ourselves and we want to give validation to our words. They are our healing power in many cases. They're our creative faculty. And then finally, as the energy moves up higher, we connect with deeper wisdom. And the child self enters. And sometimes we got to channel some emotions that seem intense, because the power rises and sometimes we don't know what to do with those emotions, and we learn to transmute them. So I'm going to go help him with that now. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.